Hi, thanks for tuning in. As you can see, I am in my closet again, which means I'm here for another episode of Chatting in My Closet. If you haven't seen the first episode, I will link it up above so that you can check it out if you're interested. I feel like I do a better job describing what this whole series is meant to be, but I'm going to do a quick summary here in case this is your first time joining me in my closet. So about 3 weeks ago, almost a month ago, I started this series on my channel called Chatting in My Closet, where it's meant to be an open forum for open discussion around specific topics. The majority of the topics will be fashion related, since that's what we are all really here for. That's what this community is about. And so that's what each episode is going to be about. It's going to focus on a specific topic, and I really want to open up the floor to continue that discussion down in the comment section. So please feel free to chime in, let me know your thoughts on the particular topic, let me know if you agree or disagree. My only request is that you are respectful to each other and try to keep and try to maintain the space as a real judgment-free zone, because I'm going to be really candid with my thoughts, and I want everyone else to be able to openly express their opinions as well. You and I can definitely disagree on certain topics, but we don't have to be nasty about it. That's all. So that's just a little context on this whole series. And today's topic is going to be judgment in luxury fashion. Whether you feel like you get judged for liking luxury, whether you feel like you need to monitor yourself, or you're self-conscious about carrying or using your goods around certain people, or you feel like when you go outside you get certain assumptions made about you because of how you carry yourself with the things that you have, perhaps. So that's going to be today's topic. As always, please feel free to go grab your drink. Here is my white wine. And I also have a tumbler with some iced tea in it because it's hot. It is very, very hot. And I figured I need the hydration both ways. All right, and then one more housekeeping thing before I get started. I mentioned it's really hot, so there is a little fan that's blowing some air. If you hear it, I apologize, but it's mostly so that I don't suffocate to death in this little corner of my space. The air doesn't really circulate here. It's a little bit of a dead zone, so I hope you can understand that the fan is there to keep me alive. The second item is I have a neighboring apartment that is undergoing some construction. I really hope this mic is able to eliminate the majority of that noise, but you might hear some random clangs, and that is from that apartment that is going through its construction right now. So I am going to do my best to cut those sections out, but if it does come through, that's why, and I hope you can understand. All right, so I think that's enough of an intro for today's topic on judgment in luxury fashion. So the main questions that prompted me to think about this topic was, like, do you feel like you get judged when you use your luxury items out in public? Or do you feel like you get judged by friends and family for choosing to spend your money on luxury things? And do you feel like there's overall judgment in liking luxe fashion, right? For me, I don't necessarily feel like I get judged when I go out in public, and that might be because I live in New York City. I understand that New York City is a pretty extraordinary place that puts a lot of different people together. Everybody comes from different backgrounds, different countries. Everything is very diverse, and so I think it reduces some of the potential for judgment because people are used to seeing so many different characters on the street, and that's kind of like a everyday thing. It's not particularly like, oh my gosh, like you don't really stand out in that way because there are a lot of different types of people, different types of personalities, different ways people express themselves, and yeah, it's like less likely that you'll stand out. I know not every city is like that, and so I'm curious to hear, you know, where you are, if you feel like it's a place that has that kind of diversity, or if you feel like you really stand out when you carry some of your nice things. I'm really curious, so let me know. But for me, I think it's really interesting. I find myself a lot more self-conscious when I am like thinking about carrying my pieces or wearing some of my pieces when I'm with friends and family. And it's probably because, you know, they're no longer strangers who might potentially judge me, and they're people that I actually know. So I am a lot more cognizant about it and think through it. And I feel like it's sometimes I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm just not going to wear that, or I'm not going to carry it. Like, I don't really want to stand out too much. Like, there aren't too many people in my friends and family group who really like luxury fashion the way that I do, and I have friends who are aware of it and appreciate it, but they don't partake in it. I have friends who are totally not interested in it at all. And then I have people who, like, I have friends who may aspire to, but just don't have the means for it. Like, it's like really all over the place, and I don't have a lot of people who are really interested in it at the level that I am, where I like follow all of the collections and I see the new pieces that are coming out and I try to get my hands on some of those pieces, you know. And so because of that, I find myself being cautious of the things that I wear and the bags that I carry and things. It's not so much that I would like purposefully change the way that I dress, but I might opt for something that's a little more low-key, or I might, you know, if I am wearing, let's say, like ready to wear, it's pieces that might not be super obvious and they're not like blazoned with logos all over the place. Like, I might make those kinds of stylistic choices to sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, reduce the obviousness of it. And part of me is not quite sure why I do that. I think one part of it is I don't know if that's going to make the other people uncomfortable. If it's going to feel like if it's going to make them feel like they're underdressed for the occasion, or that they should have carried a nice bag out to brunch or something, you know, like, I don't want them to feel like they had to do that if that wasn't what they wanted to do. And then another part is, I guess I don't know if that's going to have people perceive like me differently, if they're going to think that I'm like really vain for liking those kinds of things, or they might think I'm like doing really well. Like, I'm not doing well in life in general, right? I'm healthy, I have a place to live, I live in New York City, and I am able to afford these pieces, so I am absolutely doing well, right? But like, I don't know if it, like, the assumption then goes into like multifold of what I actually am. Like, if it gives off this impression that I'm like some millionaire, right? And or if it gives off the impression that like, oh, it's so unlikely that she would actually be able to afford those things, so she's probably drowning in debt, which is also not true. And so I feel like because it can lead to so many assumptions that people make, that I become mindful of it, and I try not to make it seem like either of those or any of those assumptions could really be true. Yeah, so I find myself doing that. It's funny, when I'm in New York City and when I'm going out somewhere with my boyfriend, not so much these days with the coronavirus pandemic and all of that, but prior to all of that, when we would go out, I would have no problem dressing up the way that I wanted to, putting an outfit together and matching it with all of the accessories that I have. Not all of them, but you know what I mean. Putting a whole outfit together and to go out, and I would have no problem. It didn't matter really where we were going. I didn't really care if we were going to you know, some Michelin star restaurant, or if we were going to like a neighborhood spot, I would dress the way that I wanted to and I would feel comfortable. But it starts getting dicey when I'm starting to meet people that I know, like when I know other people are going to be at that same spot, where I don't I don't feel as free. And some of you might be thinking like, heck with all of that, who gives a poops? Like, why would you kind of modify what you would have done based on the fact that other people are going to be there, or based on some particular people being there? And I agree with that as well. That's why sometimes I have that internal conflict on, oh, I find myself adjusting based on, you know, some of the people I might meet or the places I might go and things like that. And then on the flip side, I'm like, well, why do I care about that? Like, that's not why I wear these. I don't wear them to show it off anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I have this like whole back and forth internally, and then 9 times out of 10, I will usually I feel like I would have made some sort of modification to what I was going to originally wear. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm the only person who does that. I definitely would love to hear if you, or how you work through some of those situations if you find yourself in those. If you have, you know, I thankfully don't have people like close to my life who like seriously look down upon the fact that I enjoy these luxury things. I think honestly, I don't think I would really be able to be good friends with those folks if they were openly disapproving of, you know, the fact that this is like my interest area and my hobby. So thankfully that's not the case for me, but I know that's not necessarily the case for everybody. I know some people will sometimes have more like closer friends and family who don't quite agree with that and things like that. So if you have any tips for how to navigate those kinds of situations, I think that would be really helpful for me and for anybody else who is working through that. And I would love to hear those tips in the comment section down below. But then it also raises like the broader question of luxury itself, right? By definition, luxury is non-essential. It is extra. It's extra not in the sense of being over the top, but it's extra in that it's not, you don't have to have it. So I can understand why that gets linked with like a sense of vanity, or why that might get linked with some disapproval. I can't find the right word. why that might buy some disdain from folks in your life in general, but luxury is also relative, right? So what might be luxury for me might not be luxury for someone who, you know, like Jeff Bezos. Like, it's not luxury for him. It's like every day, it's like pennies for him. You know what I mean? So all of it's really relative. So that's where I struggle when people make those kinds of judgments. It's like, well, you know, that's not where that person's values might align, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong for someone else to prioritize and have their values run that way. So I don't know, that was a little rambly, wasn't it? But it's just the notion of, I feel like luxury gets such a bad rap for that. It's just like, everyone's always like, oh, why do you need to spend so much money on a t-shirt? Why do you need to spend so much money on like socks? Or why do you need to spend so much money on shoes? Like, they're going to get dirty anyway. Absolutely. But that's a choice that that person decided to make. So why do you have to judge that choice? It may be different from what you would have done with the same amount of money, but doesn't make it wrong for any person to choose to spend it that way. It might not be the only situation, but one of the few where, you know, some of that tough love is necessary is if you can't quite afford it and you're really stretching yourself or putting yourself in debt to acquire those pieces. That's a scenario where I'm like, nope, that's not a good thing. That is not something that should be just viewed as different values. That is a financially destructive path that person is going down, and if there was anybody in my life who was doing that, I would want to intervene to try and stop that, if I could. Otherwise, it's like, when you have your discretionary income and that's what you choose to spend it on, who's to say one's right over the other? There are going to be things that bring joy to people, very different things that bring joy to people. And so why does that have to be the same for everybody? It doesn't. I put down some thoughts on this particular topic because I wanted to make sure I am able to articulate all of those and not really leave anything out. But so in that process, I was reflecting on why I felt like I would be so self-conscious sometimes, or concerned of these kinds of judgments coming from other people, whether they're total strangers or people that I know in my actual life. And I think what it comes down to is, really deep down, I have this fear that people are going to think I'm really vain and extra, like superfluous. I don't care about the right things, and that I'm not a very relatable person. I think that's what the whole core is about. It's that fear that people are going to think I'm not relatable because, this is what I do, or this is what I like to spend my money on. And once I made that realization, I'm trying to think if that really matters, if that really should continue to matter to me. If that's something that's going to make people think I'm not a relatable person, then do I really need those people in my life, So that's kind of the conclusion, well, not conclusion, but that's kind of the root cause that I think that I got to. And it's getting me to think about broader things in life as well, on how I maintain relationships with people and what kind of people are in my life and stuff like that. But anyway, I wonder if any of you guys kind of feel the same thing, if you feel like that's the deep-rooted fear that you have that is maybe influencing your choices that you make on carrying certain things or not carrying them and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's time for me to take a sip. But part of why I started this whole YouTube channel was because I didn't have a lot of people in my immediate social circles, like the people that I knew in real life, who also cared about or wanted to talk about these kinds of things, talk about luxury and talk about new collections that come out, and handbags and shoes and clothes and all the pretty things that come out from all of these houses. And so that's why I started it, to really meet more people that were interested in the same thing so that we could talk about the same things. And that's how I've been doing this. That's why I've been doing this for the last couple of years. So I hope you're enjoying it. I hope this is all enjoyable for you. But yeah, I would love to get some more of your thoughts on this topic. Do you feel like you get judged by strangers in public or people in your life? Does that make you change the way that you dress or go to certain kinds of events or occasions, or does it not? Have you gone through that phase and you've come out the other end where you're like, I'm gonna do whatever I want because that's who I am, and why do I have to change the way that I am for other people? Or do you feel like it's still something that impacts you today? Are there specific people or specific kinds of occasions that make you adjust or anything like that? It's yeah, these are all the open questions that I want to pose to everybody, and please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I am definitely reading all of them and commenting back to all of them. The idea is really to start a dialogue so it can continue. I want the conversation to evolve, and I want to know if you feel like you're impacted or you're not impacted, whether you feel like there is heavy judgment and you kind of fall victim to it, or if you feel like, there is judgment, but I walk away from it, or I do what I want to do because that's what I want to do. But yeah, this was the second episode of Chatting in My Closet. I actually feel like I lucked out and there wasn't as much noise happening. So hopefully it wasn't too bad for you all who were listening in. If you have any topics that you would like to discuss, feel free to leave those in the comments down below as well. I will definitely add them to the list. I do have a growing list of topics I would like to touch upon. So I will add them to the list and then we can work through all of those as well. I tend to post some polls on my community page asking what topic you'd like to discuss next. So definitely keep an eye out and please participate in those polls if you would like to see one of those topics come up sooner rather than later. It helps me prioritize out of the laundry list of topics that I have. In general, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those in the comments down below or head on over to Instagram and I'd be happy to help however I can. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate all of your feedback and support on this Chatting in My Closet series. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I post new fashion-related videos every Sunday with a bonus video during the week. So until next time, bye!